You're listening to Trek FM.
Hi folks, and welcome to this week's edition of Trek News and Views, and this week we are going to be talking about Star Trek Beyond. Yes, I know it's been out a few weeks, but basically I wanted to make sure that people had time to watch it so we didn't spoil it. And to help me talk about Star Trek Beyond, I have with me Steve from England. Hi Steve.
Hello, you alright?
I'm very good. And we also have Richard. Hi Richard.
Hey, how you doing?
Now, this is your first time on Trek News and Views, Richard, so why don't you tell the listeners a little bit about yourself?
Well, I am Trek FM's production manager. I'm out here in Denver, and what can I say? I mean, my passion for Star Trek is immense.
So when did you first get into it?
Well, it was about a year and a half. Well, actually, more like 2 years ago. I was a fan. Listened to the podcast religiously. Actually, I had a lot of catching up to do because I think the journey just hit 100, and I had to catch up with all of them as well as every other show that was on the network. And then I think about 2 or 3 months, Chris needed a production manager because he needed extra help, and I volunteered and been there since I think November. Yeah, I think it's been about a year and a half that I've been a part of the network now. So
yeah, it is about that long there.
Right.
So when did you get into Star Trek?
Probably when my dad was actually stationed in England. We just happened to be we're actually up in Upper Hayford. But like it was always on the TV. I mean, the network BBC always had Star Trek, at least in the afternoons or when I got out of school, and it was fantastic because
unless sports were on, and then it just disappeared for weeks, like every other sci-fi program.
Right. But yeah, ever since then, I think I was age 8. Yeah, I've been immense or trying to get everything I can on Star Trek.
So do you have a favourite series, or?
I'm sorry?
Do you have a favourite series?
The Cyber series?
No, a favourite series.
No, I'm sorry. I didn't even understand what you were saying. I'm sorry. No, I'm guessing no.
He's from the north. Have you got a favourite series? What's your best one?
Oh, a favourite series. I'm sorry. You know, you would think that I actually would catch on what you guys, how you guys talk, because I have a British stepmother. So, and she's also from Oxford, so I don't know if there's a real difference between how you guys talk in the north and the south. So, DS9 and Enterprise. Those are my 2 favorite, for sure.
To be honest, Steve's had to translate for me before with Americans, so I'm used to it.
I just had to mute my mic. I was laughing so much it made me cough.
What we're going to do, folks, is basically just talk about the film. We're not going to follow it any particular way. We're just going to have a chat about it. So feel free to chime in about anything you want, guys, as we go along. We'll probably delve into the new series that's coming along next year, especially now they've unveiled the ship. So we'll pop into that as well as we go along. So, first impressions of the film then, Steve. Okay, that was quick.
First impressions. That was my first impression.
It was very succinct, short, straight to the point. There you go. What about you, Richard?
Boom. Loved it.
Yeah.
It was a fantastic film. I loved it. Absolutely loved it.
What about you, Colin?
I actually did. Out of the 3 in the Kelvin universe, this is my favourite. Without a shadow of a doubt, this is my favourite.
Absolutely.
I'd agree. Yeah.
To be honest, First Contact has always been my favourite Trek film, but I'll probably have to watch Beyond a few more times. But it's bordering on taking that as the top spot, but if it doesn't, it will be the second favorite.
What? You don't like Wrath of Khan?
That would be number 3.
Oh, okay.
Really? You put it above Wrath of Khan?
Yeah, absolutely.
Really?
Okay.
Yeah.
Nice knowing you. See you later. Anyway, Richard.
Take a sip. No, I mean, well, when we watched it, it was, we did a marathon in the theater, and my God, it was so hot, and there was so many people. But it was like an 8-hour like marathon. Obviously 2009, Into Darkness, and then Beyond. And my first well, I should reverse that. My very, very first impression of it was I didn't want to be here because I was so hot in that theater. So I had to go back and see it the second and third time, and I absolutely loved it because it's just, I mean, I guess I was more comfortable.
Didn't they have the aircon on?
No, they had the air conditioning on, yeah, but I mean, there was just there was like maybe 1 or 2 seats that were not filled out of the whole entire theater.
Oh, it was all the body heat.
Yeah. So, I mean, otherwise, I mean, I absolutely loved it. I mean, once I watched it, I guess there was no one in the theater besides me in the second time, but like, it was fantastic. I loved it when I got to enjoy it.
Yeah, when I went to see, we went, and there was about 20 people in the cinema when we went. We went at like 10:30 in the morning. So that was quite cool. So basically, it was like a 200-seat cinema, and there was 30 people in there, so it was brilliant.
I got the midnight showing on Friday morning, and there were 3 screens, and I got the biggest screen, and I made sure that on the premiere seating, I got the middle seat, front row of the premiere ones, and I think there's about another dozen people as well as me in that one. I'm not sure how many were in the other screens, but considering it was a Thursday night and there are 3 screens, yeah, it didn't surprise me that it wasn't sort of filled out.
Premiere seating. God, you went to a posh one.
Well, I'm a big person. I like the bigger seats. They're more comfier.
These don't have couches.
The thing is, the Odeon's premiere seating is literally like £2 extra. So it's just like, yeah, when you're already spending sort of 13 quid, you may as well just spend the extra 2 quid for the nicer seat.
Okay.
Enjoying in comfort.
Exactly.
Yeah. Does the premiere seating come with like a vibrating back massage and a cup holder and stuff?
Comes with cup holder.
Oh, okay.
You don't get service like a waitress to come up to you and ask for you a drink or something like that?
No.
No?
But then I wouldn't be able to afford those sort of prices anyway.
So, what did you think about the Enterprise getting destroyed right at the beginning, more or less?
Well, it's to be expected. It's just like,
I mean,
out of all the Star Trek films, how many Star Trek films has the Enterprise not been severely damaged or destroyed?
Yeah. I agree.
The motion picture.
But that's like the only one, and we're now on what? Film 13?
Yeah, I mean, it's been damaged in other films, but it's only been destroyed in a few. I mean, it got a bit beat up by Khan in Wrath of Khan, that film that you said isn't as good anymore. Star Trek 3, they had basically a Klingon ship. So
yeah.
Because they blew the Enterprise up, which incidentally was the 3rd film with the original cast, and this is the 3rd film with this cast, and they both lost the Enterprise. So there's something to be said for 3rd films and blowing the ship up. Yeah.
And then, of course, the Enterprise D, Deanna went and drove into the planet.
Crashed. Yeah.
Yeah, that is like Deanna's flown the ship twice and crashed it twice.
Yeah.
So.
You think we'll see anything about the Enterprise B? I mean, we only saw it once, and that was really about it.
Yeah, and even that got sort of hammered.
Yeah, but it never got destroyed.
No.
Right, exactly.
But then if it had waited till Tuesday, whether or not it would have fared any better or...
Actually, DE never got destroyed. It got beat up, but never got destroyed.
Well, Well, they said it got destroyed. Didn't I mean? I
Yeah,
guess it was badly damaged. I don't know.
in the books, because Data becomes captain, and it goes missing. I think the E. Can't remember how it goes.
Yeah, because B4,
B?
B4 gives himself up so Data can take over the body, and then Data becomes captain because Picard becomes ambassador to Vulcan, and then DE disappears on a mission, and that's so it's never actually stated it's destroyed; it just disappears.
Yeah, and then we get the F in Star Trek Online because there's a CBS Star Trek Online promotion with the design of the actual ship.
Yeah, the F in Star Trek Online is canon. So.
Yep.
I think I've seen that. I'll have to look that up. I'm not on Star Trek Online.
And then, of course, we get the J in Enterprise, so which also hasn't been destroyed. So there you go.
Well, that we know of. We have to go all the way to J. I mean, there very well could be a lot of Enterprises destroyed by then.
In Star Trek Online, it actually now features the J, and they are trying very hard to actually destroy the J there.
Yeah,
Doesn't surprise me.
Yeah, it's true. Anyway, beyond. Before we go into an Enterprise podcast. So, what did you think of the villain of the piece?
Definitely a different take on a bad, twisted captain, but at least it wasn't an admiral.
Admiral? Yeah.
Yeah, because that's always the thing. It's either a bad captain or a bad admiral.
I mean, I love the whole idea that, it makes. I mean, I love that they added or incorporated Enterprise into there with the Makos and talking about the Ramen War and the Zindi War, and but I don't know. I think it lacked depth. I mean, I think we didn't hear enough. I don't think we heard enough from the villain. It just wasn't so believable to me. You know what I mean? I mean, I get where the whole backstory is, but it just wasn't enough for me.
Yeah, the thing is, they said they actually shot enough film for 2 movies for Star Trek Beyond, and of course it had to be cut down. So you wonder how much of that story probably got cut.
Right.
Well, Justin Lin says they cut 30 minutes for pacing reasons.
Oh, that's right. I did see that today, didn't I? Yeah.
Yeah, so they cut third. So whether or not further down the line there'll be a super extended director's cut, like they did with the motion picture.
Well, they got to save enough for the later on editions, director's cut, uncut. Version.
Yeah, got to keep going to the milk. So, but they did cut 30 minutes. So who will sell?
But it was definitely a different take. It wasn't just a bad admiral. He'd had this view because, of course, he'd got made a captain of a Mako starship, which he was basically using to be a soldier. And then all of a sudden, the Federation is formed. He's now supposed to be a captain of a ship of peace, which he's not trained for, and then gets stuck somewhere. And as far as he's concerned, forgotten about, and no one ever tried rescuing them. And then, in order to stay alive, he absorbs all this DNA through this machine, which, of course, one, prolongs his life, but also he keeps taking on all these traits of all these other species, which had to have twisted him in so many different ways. And especially being that it's not like he had a place to vent, or it was just always building and building over 100 years.
Yeah, and I did like the way that when he absorbed an alien's life force, for the want of a better way of putting it, you've seen all the little parts on the suit moving.
That is actually his body. It was almost like Suliban, where they could change. But yeah, the way he was absorbing their DNA, he was taking on aspects of that crew. So, of course, when you first see him, he looks a little bit like the captain of the ship that comes in for the distress call. But, of course, as he starts absorbing some of the humans from the Enterprise, you start seeing him more with a human and a more rounded appearance.
Yeah.
And not to mention, you start seeing more of his humanity coming through as well, which, it as I said, it was a completely different take than what we've seen before when it comes to just sort of a bad admiral or a bad captain. Because we've seen these all through through the movies and through the TV series all the time. But yeah, I just thought it was a nice little twist, but kept it in a way true to Trek.
Yeah, and I like the explanation that they added when they're doing the captain's log about, he says there's 3 of them survive. We found this stuff on the planet that can prolong life, and we will do whatever we have to do to survive.
Mm.
And that explains the whole why he's still there 100 years later but doesn't look human bit. Sam is his first officer. Well, I presume it was his first officer.
Yeah. The rest of the crew of his weren't really sort of mentioned.
No, he just says in his blog that 3 of them survived, but I don't remember seeing the 3rd one. I just remember seeing one other.
You talking about of his crew?
Yeah.
I think we only saw one person in one of those pods, the swarm pods. But yeah, they really didn't show much. I mean, I don't know. I mean, it made it look like that all those swarm scenes that are pods that they had was like all automated or something like that. And
Yeah.
It's just him.
During the actual film, he actually says that they'd got sort of AIs on that planet or something, which so I think a lot of those ships were actually, and including those other soldiers, they're actual AIs or robots
Or drones.
Drones, yeah. I think it was drones was the word he actually used.
Yeah, because at the end of the film they disrupted the drone signal.
Yeah.
Which is how they all started blowing up.
Well, they disrupted the communication signal, but yeah, it's because it was just. But I suppose we'll probably get to that probably later on because that probably make a bit more sense.
Yeah.
But what about the beginning? I
Well,
loved the very first part of this film.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
You've got Kirk actually with those aliens. That's the very first opening sequence.
Yeah, but but you can't have a Star Trek film without Kirk with an alien.
Yeah, but it's just the whole thing, the way they did the camera stuff, they looked massive. But of course, when he's trying to do this thing and sort of what you'd expect when you're trying to communicate with an alien race, that things get misinterpreted. And every time he speaks, he's like digging himself into a bigger grave.
I've got to admit, up until the bit when they took themselves into a ball and rolled down, I did think they were huge.
I know, and it was just the fact they go down and they roll, and then of course they're like tiny, and it was just so funny. It was just fantastic.
And it was also a tie into the original series, because when he gets back to the ship, he says, "I ripped my shirt again."
All these little tiebacks throughout the film.
Yeah.
If you're a Trekkie and you've watched all the stuff that's come before, you get it. You go, that's fantastic, because it's just all these little sayings. And yeah, that was one of the very first ones, is I've ripped my shirt again. And of course, with the original series, it's what Kirk's always doing, sort of like every other episode. He manages to rip his shirt.
Not to rip his shirt this time.
And if he hasn't ripped it, it's just off. So.
Yeah. There's just like shameless plug here, folks. But if you want to check out Trek News and Views blog on WordPress, there's 30 tie-ins on there that I typed up. Shameless plug. So, Trek News and Views, WordPress.com.
But,
so what about the bit where he's doing his log then, as he's walking around the ship?
That was just so traditional TOS.
Mm-hmm.
It was a fantastic callback, because we hadn't really had that in the first 2 films. And
I mean, it definitely like it felt like it was an episode is what it felt like to me. It was, I mean, I absolutely, it's when he's walking through the ship and everything, and seeing obviously what actually does happen, day-to-day ship function, and obviously the crew getting complacent and just shacking up or whatever they're trying to show there, but but I mean, it just felt it felt like an episode. I mean, that's ultimately how I felt about the very beginning when he was doing his captain's log.
Yeah, it's it goes in, like you said. There's so many tiebacks into TOS here, which it's going to be because it's the 50th anniversary. The whole point of this film coming out this year was to tie into the 50th anniversary. But I think that, the writers did a brilliant job of throwing everything but the kitchen sink into this film for the fans.
And the thing is, they did it right. When it came to Into Darkness, all these little Trek references were shoved in your face. It's just like, you will get this Trek reference. Whereas this time, it was always very subtle. It was just there, but it was part of the story. It worked with the story and with the characters rather than just being inserted into the story for Trek's sake.
Right.
And that's what really made it work for me. Is it called back to so many different TV series, not just TOS. Because how many normal TV episodes do we get where, to set the scene about what's happening and how the crew are feeling, you get a captain's log right at the beginning? Because it happens literally in every TV series we've had. And it just worked because to me, this whole film was like watching a 2-hour episode. It wasn't, because you don't usually get this much character depth in a film, because that's one of the problems with always just having the films, and one of the problems with the JJ verse, or what is now known as the Kelvin timeline or Kelvin universe, is that they have no TV series where you've established character backgrounds and other things like that. You are sort of brand new with these characters, so although people who have watched it before recognize things, but it is still very different. And you haven't had the time to really get to know these characters at all, but they managed to work in the character depth into this film so well. As I said, it just, for me, it really worked, and that is why I rank it so high on my favourite Trek films.
Well, speaking of characters then, Richard, what did you think about McCoy actually being McCoy as opposed to a metaphor spouting person?
I guess it was all right. I mean, don't get me wrong. I mean, I absolutely love all the characters in there, and it's just, I don't know. One of my biggest critique on this was that we saw nothing but Kirk and Spock in um, 09 as well as Into Darkness, and then now it's kind of shifting over to well, now it's Spock and McCoy. But I mean, yeah, I mean, I liked it. I mean, yeah, like he was saying that it's just all those Star Trek references were being thrown in and been thrown into your face, and where these, it's like when he says "damn it, Jim," not a and it just cuts off. It's just it's classic Trek on something like that wouldn't be great on with that's incorporated into the script. But I mean, for the most part, I mean, I enjoyed the McCoy character. Yeah.
What I liked about the McCoy character this time is, well, as Colin, you said, that it's not just been the little puns sort of thing that he's been throwing around. You got to know him a lot better, but we also got to see more of the sort of the relationship between, because with TOS it was always Kirk, McCoy, and Spock,
Right.
and all we'd seen with the new movies was Kirk and Spock. That's all it's been for the first two. Now, this time we saw a lot more interaction between different members of the crew because of the way they got split up and the way things were going, and it showed a lot more of the interactions that happened with the rest of them. And it's like Chekhov. We didn't get to see much of him Into Darkness at all. He basically didn't need to be there. Whereas this time, he was there, and he was just, he played vital roles, and the same with Ahura. She'd got her part to play, and the way that they'd actually done it, that she was actually doing what she does best. She was trying to communicate, Chekhov was trying to sort of do sort of his thing, and yeah, they were all doing what they knew how to do best, and nothing for me felt out of place.
Let's delve into the character moments then. The one character moment that I did like was McCoy and Kirk having a drink, which directly ties into McCoy and Kirk having a drink in the original movies, because Kirk doesn't like a fuss being made about his birthday, and it's McCoy and Kirk in Kirk's flat on their own.
Because wasn't it 5 that happened in?
Yeah.
Yep. Rami and Neil.
Yeah. And it also, the other time is that he's in that scene, McCoy's telling him that taking promotion was a mistake and this, that and the other. And in this one, he's telling McCoy that he's thinking about leaving the Enterprise.
Wasn't it also in 5 that he also didn't like his birthday?
Yeah, because they were celebrating or they were acting like it was a funeral versus a celebration.
And it's also the other time with that particular scene is Chekhov's whiskey. You know, because I never figured him for a whiskey man, because he's Russian, so you think vodka. And then later on in the film, Chekhov is trying to impress the alien by saying that Scotch was invented in Russia.
Which is just classic Chekhov, because how many times in the old TOS series did he go, did you know that tracks back to Russia?
Oh, God.
But it's also, you've also got the juxtaposition with, because McCoy is like the conscience of people. Like Kirk's telling McCoy, I'm thinking of leaving the Enterprise, and then later on in the film, Spock's telling McCoy, I'm thinking of leaving the Enterprise. So he knows Kirk wants to leave and Spock wants to leave, but he can't tell Kirk that Spock wants to leave, and he can't tell Spock that Kirk wants to leave.
Yeah, I've been in that position. It's just like, why can't you just talk to each other? But it's just like, I need to speak to you later, and it's just like, yeah, know what's going to happen. that conversation's never actually going to happen.
Interject McCoy in there and to force it all out.
Yeah, he does try and, like, you know, he says to Spock, Kirk will miss you, and he said to Kirk, have you told Spock? You know, he's trying to get him to, like, you know, face up to, like, you know, you've got to tell him, you've got to tell him. But he's always in the middle.
Yeah.
So, just jumping back a bit, because there is something that I did want to bring up, is we learn from the attack scene when the Enterprise is being literally shredded that the saucer can separate. Now, that was always rumoured to be something that Kirk's Enterprise could do in the original series, but we never actually seen it. But in this one, they actually show you how they do it as well. They actually show the mechanism.
Well, back then, to do that would have been so much of a cost, and the budget for those films as well, they didn't have it there to sort of show that if it could have been put into the script.
Yeah.
You're talking about the original series?
Yeah.
Well, the original series and the films as well.
Okay.
You think about those stories as well. There's no place in there where it could have happened. So yeah, it may have always been a thing that it could have done and may have got talked about, but I don't think there's ever anywhere in there where they could have really sort of done that, apart from sort of where they blow up the Enterprise. But if they're wanting to get the Klingons on there, taking half a ship, they don't think they're there. They'd know they've escaped, sort of thing.
Well, they touch on it on the comic books. I don't know about the original series to be the comic books. I don't think that they talked about that, from what I remember. But I remember reading the countdown to Into Darkness. I think it was that they actually showed the sausage section come off of the ship. I'll have to look that up again. But yeah, I guess you could do it in the comic book.
Yeah. It's also interesting in the battle scene is Kirk tells Chekhov to go to warp. They've got no deflector dish. So if they'd have gone to warp, they would have lasted about a nanosecond.
Yeah, but they got a windshield.
Well, they had shields, but the shields just didn't. They were just ignored by these ships, these drones that were coming at them, because they said the shields aren't doing anything. Somehow they were able to get right through the technology that they were able to use.
By the time they'd sawn off the nacelles and discarded the engineering section, it wouldn't have made much difference anyway. So, it's just they just basically took the Enterprise apart piecemeal.
But I could see where he was coming from. Sort of, you can't stay there because you know that you are dead, but at least trying to escape gives you some sort of chance. But yeah, just the fact that they could see, the bad guys could see what was going on, and rather than giving the good guys any leeway like we'd see in previous iterations of Trek, where something would happen that would allow the good guys to have a break. No, they took off the pylons. They basically cut the Enterprise off at the neck.
I think it's thrown off, as he puts it.
So,
yeah, it was a powerful scene. As taking spaceships apart goes, that was a powerful scene. And it's also a credit to the redundancy systems built into the ship, because like the nacelles were gone and the ship's still intact, the engineering section's gone and the saucer section's still okay. So the redundancy systems built into that ship were phenomenal.
The only time I would say Trek's really done that before was in Voyager, in the Year of Hell.
Oh, when they took the cue from the Titanic.
So, yeah, that's been about the only other time where I can sort of say that Trek's really done that with a ship, but then they went one step further.
Yeah.
Completely trashed it.
But there is also a funny bit in The Year of Hell when he says, I got the idea from the Titanic, and Janeway says, didn't that sink?
Yeah. Paris is like, yeah, we're just going to ignore that. We've got a sort of 26th century technology.
But, so moving down to the planet then, did he keep the crew alive to feed on them? And that's it?
That's why all these drones were collecting up all the crew. And you actually see that, of course, with the two red shirts, later on when he starts talking to... what's that?
Because the thing that got me is, I thought he was going to take them to like work a mine, which is the normal thing. Take prisoners, they do your mining for you and stuff like that. Especially when they took them underground into the underground holding centres.
Yeah.
And I thought, oh, slave labour. Until he takes Uhura into that bit, and there's two of them hanging upside down, and he basically just feeds on them.
Yeah, just like a vampire.
Yeah. And I thought, oh, okay, so we're not mining then.
Yeah, you're
harvesting.
So the alien who hid the weapon in her head, I thought that was brilliant.
I love that sort of very alien-esque, as in the film, not aliens, as a.
Oh, that's chest, not head.
But it's like a face hugger, but from the back. Just like yeah. Say you've got a face hugger that's just like taking in the sun on the back of your head. It's like ah.
I mean, what is that? Is that her hair or something like that, or I can't even imagine what function that would have.
Yeah, the only thing I can presume is that's their version of hair. But as hiding places go, that was one hell of a hiding place.
Well, who knows? It could be how they sleep. They literally hang from their head, sort of thing. You never know. Because one of the things with this film is, for the 50th anniversary, we saw 50 alien races in the film. So we'd got a lot of new aliens we'd never seen before.
Yep, definitely.
Yeah, speaking of never seen before, there was a certain blonde missing.
Yeah. Wasn't the only one. There was also the android, was it 0718? He wasn't there either.
He wasn't there either, yeah. Yeah.
But the thing is, although they are on the 5-year mission, we even had with the original series that they kept stopping at star bases and everything else, so there's still no reason that she wouldn't have been reassigned during the 5-year mission, because of course at this point, Star Trek Beyond is, what was it? It's either a year and a half or 2 years after Into Darkness.
2.5.
2.5.
2.5 years.
Yeah.
966 days.
Which that actually means something as well.
Yeah, no, because the very first episode was 966.
Yes. I just had a complete memory blank what it is. It's just like, what was it? And all I could think of was the Franklin registration number.
Just go and read my blog. It's all on there.
Hold on, let me pull that up.
I'll bring that up later.
Yeah, Trek News and Views, WordPress.com. There you go.
But yeah, because the Franklin is,
the Franklin is
with the Franklin. One
the
is
Franklin
the
is
name.
It's Justin Lin's dad.
Is Justin Lin's dad, and the registration is actually Leonard Nimoy's birthday.
Yeah.
Or the American style, because it's 3 as in March.
Yeah, well, the 966 is American style as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, but again, all these little things they've worked in, and yeah. What was I saying again? So many squirrels, so many things we can go on.
Just spouting out trivia.
It's missing people.
Yeah.
But yeah, there's no reason that she couldn't have been reassigned, and especially as we know that the new ship at the Yorktown starbase is under construction, which is the only other thing that's got better sensors than the Enterprise, is under construction. So it wouldn't have been a surprise if Carol Marcus would have actually been assigned to the construction of the new ships, based on her knowledge of the projects that her dad was involved in.
Yeah.
Apart from those missiles, she was involved in all of that. So I'm sure that after a little while, not to mention that it also works into what happened in the original series, because she goes off and, of course, has their son David. So it also works into the story that if they did have a relationship, that it ended, she went off, she was pregnant, he doesn't know he's a dad yet, and that can then come in on a future film, because we already know they've greenlit the 4th film.
Yeah, but that's Chris Hemsworth coming back in that one, so I don't think Chris Hemsworth is going to come back and find out he's a granddad.
Who knows?
Or, yeah, you never know.
You never know.
Take the kid
You never
and
know.
show 'em, I don't know.
So,
from what I understand, the 4th film is actually going to be the original 3rd script that got not used because it was too Star Trek. So obviously they needed something in between, which was then Beyond. So they're now using what was the original 3rd film for the JJ verse.
So what did you think of Yorktown, Richard?
Oh my gosh, that thing was massive. I mean, look at it. It was just oh my gosh, it was fantastic. I mean, I absolutely loved how that they had all kinds of like platform or my God, I'm getting ahead of myself. Just like they had gravity on other platforms, and it's like obviously we could see it, see the other parts of the base that were upside down and everything, and then it just looked like a normal place. Obviously, you could see that there's no sun or anything like that, but it looked like artificial lighting of some sort. But like it was massive, and I was in awe. Granted, I saw it in the commercials, and we saw how big it was, but just seeing it for the first time in the movie and seeing the Enterprise going through it, like
it's just the fact that the Enterprise looks so small as well.
Right.
So the Enterprise in this universe is like twice as big as the original TOS version, and still this version looks small. So
yeah.
You can see how big it was.
I did like Mackay when he said it looks like a snow globe in space.
Yeah.
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 But yeah, it just shows how massive it was, because the Enterprise it didn't just fit in there quite easily. It fit in there and flew into it for quite a while. And it weren't flying into it slowly either. It weren't like it was using like thrusters only. It was using impulse.
Yeah.
And it still took a while to get to the centre, so
it shoots out like it's on an aircraft carrier.
Yeah.
The view
that reminded me of Battlestar Galactica, actually, the launch bit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It did. Like when you saw the launches of the Vipers. But it was such a unique view for Star Trek that it really worked. Although I did think, I'm sure they've readjusted the look of the ship so that it's actually the pylons were. It looked like further in, but whether or not that's just me or
Yeah.
they had or not, I don't know. I haven't.
So anyway, they get to Yorktown, and they all get off R&R, stuff like that, and we find out that Sulu's a daddy married to a man.
Right.
Now, George Takei wasn't happy about this. So,
No.
what do you two think about it?
Well, first, let's just say why he wasn't happy. It's not because he disagreed with it. He thought that the Sulu character should be the same as the original Sulu character. Now, because of the 60s and the 70s, basically because of ratings and things like that, although Gene Roddenberry wanted to include more sort of things to do with people from the gay, lesbian, and transsexual sort of community, he couldn't. Just the interracial kiss didn't get shown in half of the US because the South networks wouldn't show it.
Yeah,
So,
but there's also they did actually kiss in this, but they cut it.
yeah.
So yes, we've moved on in some respects, but in other respects we haven't.
Yeah, but then that's for some of the international markets that wouldn't then show it.
Right.
Yeah.
So yeah, unfortunately, it had to be. But the thing is, the way they did it was the right way to do it. It wasn't in your face. It wasn't making a big deal with it.
No, it was brilliant. He
No,
come out and there's his
come out
husband waiting for him with his daughter.
Because the thing is, it works because it didn't matter if it was a man there, a woman there, if it was his uncle or what. It was just a family sort of actually welcoming each other back.
Yeah.
And
also give the writer of the film a chance to do it. He's like, that's me.
And
So.
it also set it up. Because that was
Doug Jung.
Yeah, Doug Jung. Because he played I think it's Ben is the character name, and it actually meant that later on in the film, there's a reason why it means something to the crew, because you see in just that very short bit, which is what, total of 7-8 seconds in total, that it means something more than just innocent people down there. It's a family of the crew down there, family of one of the main characters down there.
Yeah, when they've been attacked and they're all running through the plaza, you see him running with the daughter.
Yeah.
So
and then Sulu's face in another scene shortly after that as well, about when they realise what's happening and that they're under attack. It's just, they're such small things, but yeah, they just really worked, and they worked well. It showed that there's more meaning to it all. It wasn't just, they're just innocent lives we're trying to save.
So, what? Go on, Rich.
Go ahead. No, go ahead.
No, I was actually going to ask you, Richard, what you thought about the Franklin, because we know the Franklin was bought before, so that's before Archer.
Right.
So,
Right.
What did you think of the Franklin?
I like that it was a small ship that had quite a bit of attitude to it. It definitely. I absolutely love the design of it, and it like I said, back to the before Enterprise, and it's just it's a fantastic little ship. Tough little ship.
So what about the bit where they have to trick the atmospheric compensators?
Yeah.
By flying it off the side of a mountain. So
I want to know what speed that is, because there's no way there can't be that the speed they can get it up to that speed with just normal gravity.
yeah. Well, I did. I mean, the thing that got me is, like Steve mentioned, it was a Mako ship, so it would have been built to take a punishment, because the Makos are basically the Marines.
And of course, back then, as we know from Enterprise, they didn't have shields, so it was all to do with the plating.
Yeah.
And being a Mako ship, it would have been a lot harder than Enterprise, that was actually originally designed for exploration, not combat, even though sort of later on in Enterprise you'd got Archer that says, I wish we were more ready for combat, and because of course they skipped a lot of the things that should have been on there, which ended up just going on to first of all the Columbia.
Yeah, and there's also the aspect that because I was talking to someone at work about the film, and they said, "Oh, that ship's been sitting there for 100 years, but hey ho, it works." And I said, "No, you missed the point. Jailer has been working on that ship for you don't know how long."
Exactly. The amount of people I say, "Oh, they just managed to fix a ship that they knew was," and it's just like, look, hang on. 100 years ago, they left that ship, found other technology that had been abandoned on this planet, which they used to survive, and was a lot better than what they left. And then you'd got Jailer, who's just spent the last decade or whatever working on it, and she's shown that she's really good with engineering. And it's just like, how did you not get that she's been fixing this ship? So when it comes to, she makes Scotty look like a school kid.
Yeah, just the bit when he can't get the console to work, and she says, "I'll do it." And he goes, "No, I can do this. I can do this. Like, and then he goes, "Okay, you do it."
And yeah, again, the way they've spent so much time on so many little details fitting it into all these different series. And I think this is what Star Trek fans have been waiting for when it comes to sort of the Kelvin timeline. Because it's been one of the biggest gripes. It's just like, well, it's not Star Trek. That's not what they would do. But because now Netflix in the UK has actually got all the TV series, I'm actually going through, because for a lot of them I've seen them, but wasn't able to watch them because of other things going on, so I'd missed parts of it and I'd seen them out of order. But going through and actually watching TOS and TAS, when I now look at the '09 movie and Into Darkness, it's actually thinking about it. These films are actually very much like those series. If you look at it from a TNG or DS9 era or Voyager era, sort of, then no, that is not Star Trek, because it was different. But yeah, if you look at the characters back then, sort of Kirk was in most instances the sort of person who would go in, fight with his fists first, then ask questions. Whereas, yeah, you look later on, they're more than likely to try and help no matter what, because yeah, things in the Federation alone have moved on from that particular time. So,
speaking of fight scenes, Kirk's black eye at the end of the film was a real black eye.
Nice.
Yeah, Iris did an interview, and he said that he didn't pull his punch properly, but Chris, being the actor that he is, just carried on. And it wasn't until after, when obviously the swelling and all that come up, and the producers are like, no, leave it in, because it makes it look more realistic. So the makeup people did, less makeup. So, but yeah, and he says, like, you know, but apparently he really whacked him, and Chris Pine just carried on playing the scene out. So go Chris Pine.
There you go.
Yeah, no, that's good.
So the final scene then, which is a bone of contention for some people, because yet again we have the Beastie Boys.
But it worked, and it was a good callback to 2009.
Yeah.
And even Kirk himself says that's a good track because it came from his childhood.
Yeah, and also, if you know JJ, he does a number of things in his productions. First of all, he gets Kelvin in somewhere, which is his granddad. And the other thing he likes is he's a Beastie Boys fan. So, you know, he tries to work Beastie Boys in now and again.
The thing is, I've enjoyed the Beastie Boys music that's been in these Star Trek films. I know a lot of people have dissed it, but it's just like, sorry, I don't see the problem. I've liked it. Sorry.
Yeah, I never said the problem either. I absolutely, I mean, growing up with the Beastie Boys, and I just absolutely love it. I mean, it's just, hey, it's my Trek, you know?
The thing is, I've not even grown up with the Beastie Boys, but still, I've actually enjoyed it, and I think when it has been used, it's actually worked.
Well, it's the same track because it's Sabotage,
Yeah.
Right.
which was the same track in '09.
Yeah, but they used a different Beastie Boys track in Into Darkness, didn't they?
Yeah. But I mean, they've used Sabotage twice.
Yeah,
So.
they used that one twice. That was a direct callback to the '09 film.
So the other controversial scene is the motorbike.
Yeah,
Now,
that was mainly
in the clips when they did the trailers, and I watched the trailer and I thought, oh crap, they're going to do Fast and Furious in space.
Yeah, but a lot of that came from the very first trailer that was done by the marketing team. It wasn't done by the directors and the producers.
But in the film, in the context of the way they used the motorbike, fine. Didn't have a problem with that.
Oh yeah,
the thing that I did have a problem with is, why is a motorbike with a combustion engine on a starship?
Well, if you remember, this was from the NX era. So when we first saw the motorbikes with Kirk, they didn't have the combustion stuff. But of course, you're talking about, 100, 150 years before then, where I'm sure there still are a lot of bikes. And that actually looked like a collector's one from one of the crew who's actually brought it aboard, maybe to work on in their spare time or something. So
basically, the Franklin had their version of Tom Paris on board.
Basically, that's how I took it. Well, the thing is, you're talking about an NX class ship that's from a period, sort of 50 years after sort of World War III sort of thing. They've made first contact. They're still working things out. You'd still have people probably with combustion engines. So they probably wouldn't have completely gone. There'd be collectors.
Well, this is a Warp 4 ship, yeah?
Mm.
Okay. In Enterprise, we see Archer and his friend break Warp 2. Right? So this ship was built after Archer broke Warp 2 and before the NX-01. Because it's a warp.
They still would have combustion engines back then. I mean, more as a toy, really, is how I would see it. I mean, they discussed in '09 that that convertible was an antique. I mean, it still ran. I mean, it was a combustible one, unless they changed the engine out. But then again, that's assuming that it's a combustible engine too.
Yeah. So someone on the Franklin basically was a motorbike enthusiast. You're going to be in a deep space mission. I'll take my project with me. That'll give me something to do in my downtime.
Yeah. And the thing is, I don't see, based on the era that it comes from, that it's too out of that sort of situation where you would see that. And the thing is, yes, it may look like a combustion engine, but who's to say that it's actually running on sort of lead fuels or something? It could.
I'm sure it's unleaded.
Plutonium. It's plutonium.
But
it's got Tony Stark's arc reactor.
There you go.
They could have had something fitted that powers it, but it's not sort of the traditional sort of polluting sort of combustion engine.
Which is just as well, considering what it was spouting out when you pressed the button.
But the thing is, it's also budget. They use the budget on loads of other areas, so to cover up a muzzle on an old bike, especially with all the stuff they were doing when it came to the imagery on the motorbike actions, it wasn't really needed. I don't think it mattered, to be honest.
But in regards to the rescue scene, I thought that was a brilliant scene. Because it was the whole crew working as one unit.
Mm.
You know, Kirk was a diversion, Spock and McCoy were doing their bit, Uhura was doing her bit, Scotty was doing his bit, you know, and they was all working as a unit towards a common goal. And I just thought it was brilliant because everyone was in play.
Oh yeah, and they all worked to their strengths. They all did what they knew to do best. And then, of course, you'd also got with the transporting, the callback to Enterprise. Oh, well, this old model was only ever really used for containers. But a few tweaks here, because, of course, when they were building these ships, it was just used because in Enterprise, Series 1, I'm sure there's an actual mention there. It's only just been given the okay for biological use.
I think
Yeah.
that was the first episode, wasn't it?
Yeah.
It's one of the first ones, I'm sure.
Yeah, and they had made a comment about I'll stick to the shuttlecraft.
Yeah. And talking about shuttle pods, you actually see those shuttle pods in the little video as well.
Oh, the evacuation. Yeah.
Yeah.
By the way, I love the way the bad guy ships form a tower when they land. I mean, that saves on building a landing pad, doesn't it? Just stack them up.
A lot of people said because the other thing that I've heard that people are having issues with is how big the swarm is. They're going, well, you have a look around on the planet, you don't see all those ships, and it's just like, well, you do remember where they went underground and there were ships underground stacked as well, don't you? Just like,
but you do see them. There's various scenes where the crew are climbing over the mountains, climbing through the forests and stuff, and the swarms in the air.
Yeah,
like starlings.
There's loads of patrols. There's loads of them underground. There's some of them on ground. They're dotted all over the place. So it's just like, yeah, it is a huge swarm, and if they are all sort of some sort of android or whatever, yeah, it's not like they need crew, sort of biological crew.
So let's get to the tearjerker bit then.
Well, before then, you've got the bit where they do disrupt. The only bit that sort of for me was when they disrupted the signals that they all just exploded.
No. The tearjerker bit's before. I'm on about Spock.
Yeah, no, I said before we go on to that bit, because we were talking about the swarm ships.
Oh, right.
The only issue that I had was the fact that when they were transmitting the signal, they all just blew up. I would have liked to have seen a bit more where some of them were out of control when they were blowing up because they're crashing into each other. Rather than...
I'm sure that's what it was.
Well, it looked like it was just they blew up.
Well, they were shooting some of them.
Oh yeah, but they.
So I took it as I took it as they were shooting some of them, and some were flying into each other. Some of them the circuits were overloading. Because if they are drones, I mean, basically they set off the acoustic version of an EM pulse.
Yeah.
So
that was the only niggly bit that I'd got with the drones and that part. Although, really,
it's a massive explosion, man. Just enjoy it.
Oh no, I did. I thought it was great fun, but it was just that it would have been good because when you had the ship attacking and you saw all the interactions with the shuttle, the escape pods and everything else, that it would have been nice to have seen some extra little close-ups of them just crashing into.
Yeah, but then that's more money.
I know. But as I said, I thought it was very fun.
That's in the 30-minute deleted scene. So when you get the extended special edition,
probably be like that 3 or 4 seconds that you want. Yeah.
But I do want to talk about Spock before we wrap it up. So, we get the nice they call tribute to Leonard Nimoy, where they tell Spock, JJ Spock, that Spock Prime has died. Brilliantly acted by Zachary Quinto.
Yeah.
We get the bit later on where he tells McCoy, and he loses his control and he starts crying.
Well, he also lost his control because he was in a huge amount of pain. Well. And we also know from TOS that does happen because he is half human. Because were complaining, oh, he wouldn't laugh like that. It's just like he does. You see him smile in TOS and things like that.
Well, yeah, there's episode in TOS where a mock time when he thinks he's killed Kirk. And Kirk walks into sickbay and he's overcome with joy. But I just wanted to mention like the scenes where Spock is conveying what obviously Zachary felt in real life because him and Leonard Nimoy were close in real life.
Yeah.
And I think it's a tribute to Zachary Quinto and his ability as an actor, the way that he conveyed so much emotion in them scenes by doing very little.
Yeah.
I liked it a lot. It was very tasteful, and it was that just moment of silence once we found out well, obviously we already knew, but I mean before the movie even came out. But I mean with just that moment of silence was just you could. I mean when we're in the theater, you could definitely hear everyone like, it's like it hit them hard,
Yeah.
like what we all did. Yeah.
When he's standing on Yorktown and he reads the thing that says Ambassador Spock is dead, the cinema went. He was definitely hush in the cinema.
Yeah.
Definitely hush. And then when the bit at the end where Kirk says to absent friends, which is what original Kirk says about Spock, to absent friends, a couple of people, which is very un-British, by the way, Richard, this is, but a couple of people in the cinema went, woohoo! And that is very un-British.
Is it? Okay.
Yeah, in England, when they watch the cinema, everyone's dead quiet. No one talks. No noise.
Yeah, you don't get the same reactions. You'll get laughs in a lot of the funny... Well, depending on the film. There are some films people go, am I allowed to laugh in this one? Which is usually what you'd get in a Star Trek film, to be honest. And yeah, but usually it's very hush. Because usually, like, from what I've heard from a lot of my American friends, they watch it, you get lots of cheering and all sorts of things. But yeah, you don't get that in...
You're talking about the
UK
ending
cinemas.
scene when they give a toast to the saying absent friends and then showing the Enterprise. Is that the scene you're talking about?
Yeah. When they're back on Yorktown and he does a toast to absent friends, which is basically absent friends that they've lost in the battle.
And not to mention that one of the last shots that they do is, of course, from Chekhov as well.
Right.
Sadly.
Because, of course, we only recently lost him at age 27. And yeah, it brought a tear to my eye.
And I'm also pleased that they've announced they're not going to replace it.
Yeah.
They're just not going to be a Chekhov in film for.
No, it's the right thing to do. Whether or not they actually say that he's died, or because of course when it came to the animated series, he wasn't in there either. So of course, whether or not they replace him with, I can't remember what the alien's called, which had 3 arms.
I don't know. I've tried to wipe the animated series from my head.
Actually, you're talking about the... Yeah, I know. I can see it. I don't remember the name of it.
I must admit, I've watched the animated series. That was the first one when it came on UK Netflix that I actually watched because I hadn't seen it. And I don't see what the problem is with it. To be honest, I actually liked it more than I'm liking the original series, to be honest.
The animated series? Yeah.
Hang on. So you prefer the animated series to TOS and you put Rafa Khan third?
Yes.
Anyway, Richard, I'm going to need a new co-host soon.
Send hate mail to Colin at...
Can't get the staff, man. So, anything you want to mention about the film, Rich, that we haven't already mentioned?
Backtracking to the finding out about Sulu on the Yorktown. My only thing was, I don't get me wrong, I liked it. It was great, but honestly, I would have loved to have been surprised for it. Surprised. I mean, that was probably my only beef about the whole entire film, was that I just really wished I would have loved to have been surprised by that instead of all the spoilers before the even movie, and all the headlines were always Sulu's gay in Beyond. I'm like, oh great, thank you very much.
Well, I can understand why they did it, because it's like, get it out there first, so that way when it comes to the release, that's not the thing that's dominating the conversation about the film.
Yeah, I guess I could see that way. I don't know, but I mean,
yeah, but the Enterprise is such a pivotal thing in Star Trek that to reveal that you're going to destroy the ship in a trailer, I question that as well.
Yeah, I mean, because like one of the things I said to a lot of people that were there at the premiere that we had was that seeing it the first time it was kind of disappointing because I feel like I already saw the movie through most of the trailers. I mean, it kind of just, there wasn't much of a surprise while I was watching it. Obviously, my mind changed once I saw it the second and third time, and I'm going to see it the fourth time this weekend. But it's just, I guess I should stay away from the commercials, or try to.
Yeah, because in America especially, there are quite a lot. And apart from the 3 main ones, they were the only ones that I watched. I didn't bother watching any of the others because I wanted to enjoy the film. And I actually saw a trailer on UK TV after I'd seen it, where you actually see Idris Elba's character in that sort of video right at the end. I'm thinking,
Yep.
I'm so glad that I hadn't seen that advert first, because it's just like he's saying, oh, if you ever come here, I'm going to get revenge, or whatever it was he says. It's just like, I am so glad I hadn't seen that, because although I could see where it was heading, it was nice not to have seen that and known that. And I feel sorry for the people who did see that first, because I think that probably would have ruined it of the actual film.
Yeah, I did stay before it came 20th, I think it was. And it came out the day of, and I happened to just catch that trailer, and yeah, that kind of ruined it for me.
And the thing is it's one of the things that keeps happening these days. So much stuff is put into the trailers that half the time you don't really need to watch the film, because you've actually seen most of the plot line before you actually go into the cinema, which is a shame. And yeah, I think they need to, sort of all films need to cut back on it and have a trailer as a trailer, and not basically have so many trailers that it's just like, okay, well, I've watched all the trailers, I don't need to watch the film now, I've basically got what it is.
They clearly did a great job. I mean, because look at the box office numbers. I mean, obviously a lot of people loved it. You know, I don't know.
Yeah, it's on course to make in excess of 200 million.
Yeah.
So, Richard, where can people find you on the internet?
Well, they can find me at all over the Babel Conference. My Twitter handle is xransom. And that's about it.
Steve, your podcast whore, where can people find you on the internet?
I'm not on that many podcasts. You can find me basically all over the place at Midnight Shadow 7. That's night spelt NITE and the number 7.
Yeah, and I'm basically every podcast known to mankind.
Not quite.
No.
Getting there.
So anyway,
it doesn't help the matter. I'm actually doing 4 podcasts this weekend alone, but
so I refer to you being a podcast whore. Anyway, for those of you who don't know, the Babel Conference is Trek FM's group on Facebook. So if you want to go and talk to a load of other Trekkies about Star Trek, then you're on Facebook, go to the Babel Conference and request to join, and one of the moderators will let you in. Do bear in mind that if you're in the European time zone, that the moderators are American and in the Japanese time zone. So if you don't get accepted straight away, just hang on. They will get to you. You can find me at COLMH01 on Twitter and on Google+. You can find Trek FM on Facebook, Twitter, basically all social media. They're everywhere. And as I said, if you want to check out my blog, it's Trek News and Views at wordpress.com. And there's 30 Easter eggs on there. There is more. I could have put 40, but I kept it at 30. So check that out. And if you do listen to us on iTunes or Stitcher or anything like that, if you could leave us a rating, then it helps other people get to notice the podcast, and it's greatly appreciated. So thanks for listening, thanks for downloading, and we'll speak to you soon.
Previously on Trek.fm, to the journey! He tweets out, like, hey, walking around with my mobile emitter, hashtag blessed. It's just, I'm sure that's what he's doing.
Gosh. Yep. He's taking photos of his holographic non-dinner.
The 602 Club.
And even the book started this way, and I remember reading the book and being like, what the F is going on? Because it's just such a strange scene, this muggle caretaker in this house making tea, and you're like, what is happening? But really what's being set up is this bookend of Voldemort looming over everything and finally finding a way to return.
Stage 9, a podcast about the people who make Star Trek.
every chance they have to get him off the bridge of that ship and have him running around on some planet or shooting some guy or jumping on something, they do. And it's like, he's got that chair there. It looks really comfortable. Let's have him sit in it for a while and command a starship.
And that's what else is happening on Trek.fm.